Hi, everybody, and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
And today we're looking at our translation unit. We're going to look at some sentences, look at the vocab and the phrases and synonyms and all kinds of things to do with that. Now, our first topic we're going to look at is about a special kind of fish, but it's related to our diet. So how do we make sure we eat enough protein if indeed we pay attention to our diets at all, which sometimes I'm guilty of not doing so.
Well, I try to do that too. Like last year, I was really into working out, so I paid a lot of attention to my diet. But now, recently, I'm not really paying too much attention to it.
Mm-hmm. So how would you get more protein?
So when I tried to get more protein, I would try to eat chicken, beef, and eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I took protein shakes.
Okay, those are all good ideas. I don't eat meat, so I have to, really try to make sure, maybe try a little harder to make sure. It's very easy just to, vegetable dishes, vegetable lunchboxes and so on.
So where do you get your protein from?
I do try to make sure I get eggs in there, and a lot of, tofu products are quite rich in protein.
So you don't eat meat, but you eat eggs?
Yeah, eggs is fine. Beans also contain not just protein, but also fiber and lots of other useful things. So I try to get quite a lot of just bean, not just like soybeans, but all different kinds of beans, chickpeas, all the different ones. I find they're a good way to get protein and other useful, healthy things in me. So let's relate that to the first sentence we're going to look at in Part A, single sentence. Sentence 1, tilapia is a foreign species, and it used to be the top choice for a cheap protein source after it was introduced to Taiwan in 1946.
Tilapia 指的就是无锅鱼，所以这边的中文在说的是无锅鱼是外来的物种，在1946年被引入台湾之后，曾是便宜的蛋白质来源首选哦。那时态呢，前半句要以现在简单式描述事实，说它是个外来物种。那后半句我们要讲到1946年的事情，所以当然要用过去简单式描述已经发生的事件。
So tilapia, if that is indeed how you pronounce it, is a fish, and it's been important to Taiwanese people for many years, but it is a foreign species, which means it's not native to the oceans around Taiwan. It's not normally found, or it wasn't found, in its rivers and lakes until 70, 80 years ago. As another example, grey squirrels are a foreign species in the UK. The native ones are red squirrels, but grey ones are bigger, stronger, better at getting food. So now you see grey ones everywhere, but red ones are rare.
所以呢，外来物种我们就可以用 foreign species 来说。那当然呢，还可以被解读为被引入的物种哦，或者是非原生种。所以exotic species 或是 immigrant species， 还有就是 alien species， 还有 introduced species， 还有一个 non-native species 都可以是这个翻译。那要特别注意的是species 它是一个单复数同形的名词哦。
And so, tilapia is a top choice, or was a top choice, for cheap protein. Something that is a top choice means it's a very popular choice. A lot of people will choose this thing, take this option, for whatever reason. Japan is often a top choice for vacations from Taiwan. Certain schools will be considered this is a top choice for students, a top choice for language learners, the top choice if you want to study medicine, and so on. We hope ED, English Digest, is your top choice for an English magazine.
是的，希望我们是你的首选，那就是最主要的选择，可以翻作 top choice 或者是 number one option。那形容词 top 跟 number one 两者都有首要的最好的意思。那在用法上呢，多置于修饰的名词之前。那再给同学们一个例句哦。Vietnam is the number one choice in Asia for a budget vacation. 越南是在亚洲廉价旅游的首选。
So we said tilapia is a foreign species, so that means somebody back in the 1940s, they brought it here. They put it into the ocean or rivers or wherever it's found. And this action is to introduce something. We often think of introduce as like, hi, this is my brother, this is my parent, this is my wife. Nice to meet you, that kind of introduction. But here is bringing a new thing into an existing environment. It could be a new species that's being brought in, or you could be introducing new students into a school or a class. You could be introducing new teaching methods into a curriculum, new ideas, that kind of thing.
Introduce 除了我们以前学的介绍之外啊，这边再教给同学们一个就是引入的意思。那有首次采用啦、推进或引进，除了用于将动植物或是疾病带入某处，也可以适用于新法的推行或者是新商品的推出，你都可以用 introduce 这个字哦。那常见的用法有呢，第一种 introduce something to somebody or something from somewhere， 或者是第二种 introduce something into something。那本句这个部分的翻译也可以写成 After it was brought to Taiwan in 1946。那再给同学们一个例句咯。Hundreds of years ago, tea was introduced to Europe from Asia. 代表数百年前呢，茶叶从亚洲被引进到欧洲。
So that was our first sentence, this idea that 70, 80 years ago, a new type of fish was put in and around Taiwan. Now we've got sentence 2. Nowadays, the fish is exported to international markets, and it's seen as a national treasure due to its economic value.
那接下来我们第二个要翻译的句子，它的中文是现今这种鱼被出口到国际市场，而由于它的经济价值，它被视为是国宝哦。那时态我们当然要用的是现在简单式描述这个事实。
So it's kind of a change here. At the start, this fish was just, okay, it's a cheap fish, we can get it easily, it's an important source of protein. But now, wow, this is a cool fish, we export it everywhere, we make a lot of money from selling these fish into other markets, so it's a national treasure. Let's look at what some of these words mean, starting with nowadays. Nowadays just means these days, in modern times. It's not a specific time or place. We're just indicating that this is a modern thing happening, reasonably recent. We could also use currently.
Nowadays 代表的是现今，那这个副词常常置于句首或是句尾，带出整个句子，作为一个事件所发生的时间。那其他表示现今、现在的方法，还有像是 these days, today 或是 at present。So
before we had this fish being introduced, it was brought in. People said, all right, and we'll put some fish in the water. We'll make sure they're farmed so they don't die out quickly or get their numbers up, that kind of thing. That was all done successfully. Now this fish is being exported. To export something means to sell it to overseas markets. You sell it in Japan, China, wherever, whoever wants to buy it, you sell it to them. The opposite to this word is import or imported if you're using the adjective, which means it's bought from foreign markets. So items can be imports and exports. So the word import could be a verb, could be a noun. Same with export.
这里我们看到出口该怎么表达呢？我们要用的是 export 这个动词。那常见的用法有somebody 或是 a country exports something to somewhere， 好，那就代表他把东西出口到别的地方去。那第二个是 something is exported to somewhere， 好，那就是用被动的方式。那 export 这个字还可以当名词用哦，那念作 export。那它的反义字就是 import。给同学们一个例句 ：Taiwan exports many different kinds of electronics to countries around the world。代表台湾出口多样不同的电子产品到世界各国去。
Of course, yeah. We've got the big semiconductor industry selling all these little computer chips or whatever they are to big companies, big electronic companies all around the world. And, of course, if you're selling something and it's making a lot of money, that makes it pretty important to people. That makes tilapia a national treasure. A national treasure is something that is considered to be valuable and important to a country. And it could be for a variety of reasons. Here, it's all about money. But something could be a national treasure if it's a person. They could be well-loved. Maybe they represent Taiwan, their music or their movies or something is loved all over the world. Maybe they're a national treasure if they've made a big contribution to the country's laws or culture. It could be a landmark, a place, an area of the country as a national treasure, a really beautiful area that people will come to visit, local people will be proud of and like to visit. We're talking about all kinds of treasure here, things that might not be silver or gold, but they are very valuable to a country for a variety of different reasons.
国宝该怎么翻译呢？国宝我们可以说 national treasure。那 treasure 在这边指的是极具重要性或是价值的人或事物。注意哦，人也是可以的。好，也可以用 national treasure 来称呼它们。那常见还有其他的用法，像是 natural treasure、historical treasure 或者是 cultural treasure 都可以。
Yeah, historical treasure would be like the stuff in the National Palace Museum, really important for a study of history. Other things could be really important for a country's culture, so they are a cultural treasure, and each different group within Taiwan will have its own cultural treasures. Natural treasures, of course, are not difficult to find in Taiwan. So now we've got this one, this fish, tilapia. This is a national treasure due to its economic value. And you can say economic or economic. Both ways of pronouncing this word are absolutely fine. Economic or economic is an adjective relating to the economy, which is all the production of goods and services. The economy is all about the distribution of wealth in a country or area. When we talk about the economy or something's economic value, we're talking about things like trade, imports, exports, how much money everybody has to spend, GDP, the housing market, the job market, how much money is worth compared to other countries' money, inflation, banks, savings, and so much more.
经济价值啊，我们由名词 economics 衍生出形容词，好，有两个，一个是 economic， 还有一个是 economical。那前者表示经济上的，后者则是为节俭的或是经济实惠的。那在这里呢，经济价值指的是经济上的价值，所以我们要译作的是 economic。那给同学们一个例句哦。For example, the government will offer loans to businesses to encourage economic development. 代表政府向企业提供贷款，鼓励经济发展。那再来一个呢，我们就用到 economical 这个字。We buy things in bulk because it is more economical. 我们大量采买是因为这样比较经济实惠。
Yeah, that's why you take your big bags and you go off to Costco once every couple of months to fill up on stuff because it's economical. It's good value for money. You're paying less because you have to buy massive boxes and 8 versions of things when you really only need one at a time, but you just stock up on it all. It is more economical. Okay, so that's talking about the tilapia fish and how it's contributed both as just an easy source of food and protein for people in its early days to now becoming a national treasure that Taiwan exports and makes a good deal of money from. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be looking at our other sentence and diving into the world of the FIFA World Cup. Welcome back, everybody. For part B, which is also single sentence, we're switching our attention to the FIFA World Cup, which, of course, kicked off last month. It's a bit of a strange one. Normally, the FIFA World Cup is in June and July. This year, it's happening in November and December because rather than taking place, mostly World Cups are in Northern European or American countries. Sometimes Asia, Australia, South Africa. Now we're in Qatar. And it's so hot there, they need to play it in the Qatari winter rather than in the summer because everybody would just bake in the heat. So all these football tournaments around the world, all the leagues in England and Spain and everywhere, they're going, let's take a break for a month so we can have the World Cup.
The World Cup 指的就是世界杯足球赛，那今年是在卡达举行哦。那因为呢，天气的状况是不一样的，所以在这个时候才举行。
Yeah, The World Cup is a 4-year celebration of disappointment for anybody from England. Because every 4 years we get our hopes up for no good reason, and then we get sadly disappointed and we go, oh, not again, lost on penalties.
So you would get really excited and look forward to this event, but afterwards, you guys would get really disappointed?
Mostly, that's the national cycle, yeah. Me, I got my excitement and disappointment out of the way in the 90s. In 1990, we got to the semi-finals and lost to Germany on penalties. In 1996, in a similar European tournament, we got to the semi-finals and we lost to Germany on penalties.
When David Beckham was playing?
It was even before Beckham. I'm old. I've got a lot of years of being disappointed in English World Cup performances. So we are recording this before the World Cup takes off. I don't know how we're going to do in this World Cup, but I don't expect we'll be doing well. It's just, being disappointed is a pastime in English, in England, especially about football. But anyway, what is the World Cup? Let's look at our actual sentences and see what they are talking about. The first sentence, sentence 1, the World Cup is an international athletic event that is held every 4 years. At least a tenth of the world's population watches its final game.
我们刚刚提到的世界杯足球赛，英文当然用这3个字 The World Cup， 它是每4年举办一次的国际体育盛事，至少是1/10的世界人口会收看这个决赛。那时态呢，我们要用现在简单式一样，我们在描述的是事实。
So this World Cup started in November. We've got the group stages where groups of 4 play each other, and then we get to the knockout rounds. And after all of those games, we head towards the final big game, the World Cup final. So the World Cup itself is an event that everyone looks forward to. They hope they can get picked for their national side. If they're lucky, they might get to play in a couple of these tournaments in their lives, but it's a big event. An event is a planned occasion, usually one of importance. When we're talking about this kind of event, we mean things like big tournaments, huge rock concerts, and so on. Things many people would watch in person, on TV, or online. Things that will take a lot of planning.
盛事，好，我们用到这个名词 event， 那就是特殊的活动或是大事，特别指规模浩大，而且活动内容经过特别筹划的公开盛事哦。那 event 之前可以加上形容词或是另外一个名词，来表示该事件涉及的领域或是性质。而体育盛事呢，也可以说是 sporting event. For example, the event will be a charity dinner to raise money for cancer research. 这项活动是一场为癌症研究募款的晚宴。
So the World Cup is held every 4 years. So there's a break of 3 years where there's no World Cup, and then there's a World Cup. So this one, it's been a slightly longer wait, a few extra months because of the time it's being held. The last one, you guys might remember, was held in Russia in 2018. England did okay, but then they lost. It was the best we've done in a while, though, so I'll at least take the fact that we weren't a complete embarrassment like we were in 2014. That was not a good World Cup in Brazil. We were very poor. So who knows how we'll do this time, but so that means if it's every 4 years, we're waiting another 4 years for the next one, 2026. Now, this one is going to be a pretty cool one. Normally, one country will host the World Cup. Sometimes you get 2, like in 2002. It was in Japan and South Korea. The next one is going to be spread across the US, Canada, and Mexico. So, be a great big World Cup.
所以是3个国家一起举办这件事情。3 countries involved in this. OK, 那再来我们要看到的是事件发生的频率。如果要单纯表示呢，每点点点一次，可以用 once every 加上时间、单位或是长度。那如果要表示的是某时间单位内几次的话，那可以用 once, twice 或是数字加 times。后面呢加上 a, every, per， 再接上时间单位或是长度。例如呢 every 2 weeks， 那就表示每2周一次。5 times a month， 那就代表的是1个月5次。
So a lot of people, not even just people from the two countries whose teams are in that final, will watch the games. Basically, if you love football or soccer, you'll try and watch as many of the games as possible just to see what's going on, just to remember the occasion. First one I remember was 1990 in Italy, when my brothers and I watched some of the games. We got the goals video. We had a chart on the wall where you could get little sticky flags and put them to see who was winning the games, who would play who in the next round. It's all very exciting, and no game is more exciting than the World Cup final, and we see that 1/10 of the world's population will do so. 1/10 is, of course, a fraction equal to 10%. We could also say that at least 1 in 10 people around the world will watch the game.
好，我们这边要说到呢，分数的使用。若分子是1的时候，除了1/2我们说 a half， 还有1/4我们说 a quarter 之外呢，分数的构成都是 a 或 one 加上序数。什么是序数？也就是 third, fifth, sixth， 好，这些序数。例如呢，1/3它就是 a third 或是 1/3。那当分子大于1的时候啊，分数的构成就是基数，也就是 2, 3, 4加上连字号，再加上序数的复数哦。所以像是2/3会是 2/3.
And here we're talking about the world's population. Population is the number of people that can live in a place or that live in a place. The world's population is all the people that live in the world. Or you could talk about a city's population. We can also use the word for animals, the population of bees, the population of black bears in Taiwan, and so on.
Population 这边当作的是人口或是大众，那当然你也可以用来称，比如说动物的数量或是昆虫的数量，这些都是可以用 population 这个字来表达。那要特别注意的是呢，人口的概念啊，看似是复数的群众，但是这个字多半是当作集合名词，表示一个整体哦。所以后面呢，常用的是单数动词来做搭配，像是 The supermarket is so busy every Sunday that it feels like the town's entire population is there. 那一座超市呢，每到星期天总是很繁忙，感觉就像是全镇的人口都在那。即便是全镇的人口，我们后面的动词还是用单数 be 动词 is.
So, of course, a lot of people are going to watch that final game to see who the World Cup winners are. But as we see in sentence 2, even though most fans can't be there in person, they still cheer for the teams they support via TV or online broadcasts.
那这个句子第二句要说的中文是就算多数球迷没有办法亲自到场，他们仍会透过电视或是网络转播为他们支持的队伍加油。那时态当然还是用现在简单式描述这个事实。
Of course, it would be great to see one of these games in person. I've never been to a World Cup game. I've been to some pretty big football games, England playing at some big stadiums, my team playing at a few. I went to the old Wembley to see England play. I've seen a very big cricket game, about 90,000 people in a stadium in Australia, which was pretty fun. And I was there in person.In
person 对，有时候呢，你想要亲自看看一件事情到底是怎么样发生的，还有它发生的过程，所以呢，我们就用这两个字 in person 或者是 personally 也是可以的。如果你想要使用反身代名词也行哦，那我们就用 themselves. So for example, online classes are hard for me to focus on, so I much prefer going to class in person. 线上课程对我而言呢，太难专注了，所以我比较喜欢亲自去教室上课。So for me, I went to Fenway Park to watch the baseball game, and guess what happened? I fell asleep.
Oh well, that'll happen in baseball.
Right.
So if you can't go to Qatar and see these big games in person, you will need to watch the games via TV or online broadcast. Via, sometimes said via, is a preposition meaning through or by way of.It explains how a certain place is reached or how something is accomplished.
透过我们可以用介系词 via 或者是 through 来表示，那两者都有借由某方式、工具、技术，或是某人已达到点点点之意哦。 像是呢 My mother couldn't make it to the wedding, but she watched it via video call. 我妈妈没有办法到场参加婚礼，但她透过视讯电话观看。
And most people these days will watch the World Cup final via an online broadcast. A broadcast is when a particular event or show is played on the radio, on TV, or these days streamed online. We actually use the word broadcast as a verb as well. The game will be broadcast online. You could replace it by the word transmit. It will be transmitted via radio, whatever. Now, despite its modern use about talking about TV shows, internet streaming, the origin of the word broadcast is seeds, plant seeds being broadly cast in a field, so thrown everywhere to cover a wide area. A broadcast show or event can be seen by many people.
转播我们用到的字是 broadcast， 那它表示利用网路啦或是卫星讯号等方式来做转播。动词名词都是它，都是 broadcast。不过呢，你把它做动词用的时候，它的三态是同形的哦。那如果要表示现场转播的话，可以说 a live broadcast of something， 或者是 something is broadcast live. For example, you need to pay to watch the live broadcast of the concert. 代表你需要付费收看这场音乐会的现场转播。
So, I can't remember what time the World Cup final is being broadcast. It might be one of those games that's shown in the middle of the night here, in which case I probably won't watch it unless, by some miracle, England end up in the final, which I don't think is very likely, but if they do, I will stay up and watch them and then get disappointed all over again in real time.
Okay, so if England is in the final, you'll definitely watch it.
Yep, I will be watching the broadcast.
Live.
It's the sort of thing I might even let my son stay up and watch. He's a little bit young to understand it. He'd probably get bored. I'll show him some of the earlier games and he can see if he's interested. He goes to football class, so maybe he'll get the idea of the football being watched on TV as well.
Have you tried to make him watch one of the football games with you?
Not yet. They're all on too late. Hopefully some of the World Cups are on at a more reasonable time so he can actually see them. But yeah, we don't want to spoil his bedtime unless it's for England. But the better he learns that England are going to lose the big games, the more realistic he will grow up with. You know, we all have to, as children, get our dreams shattered by this kind of thing. So it's the hope that kills us. So you might as well kill that hope when you're young.
Right. So you mean he wouldn't get that disappointed in the future.
Yeah, you guys out there, this is the voice of a pessimistic 41-year-old England fan. There are plenty of us around. Okay. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening, everybody. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.